Hello and welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills. I'm your host, Tia Young. Today we welcome to our studio the George Mason Game and Technology Academy, the Elite Academic Institute Academy, and the Director of Corporate Development at Working Excellence. Our topic will be centered around the educational enrichment for our kids through STEM programs and activities. The George Mason Game and Technology Academy offers one of the fastest growing and most transformational community programs in the region today, integrating all of the STEM core competencies in a challenging, fun, and engaging way. They also work very closely with local strategic partners, and we are going to meet one of those partners today as we discuss our topics. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Assistant to the Director of the Mason Game and Technology Academy, Ms. Narissa Hart. Seated next to her are Mr. Ronnie Dasgupta, founder and CEO of the Elite Academic Institute. And last but not least, please welcome Mr. Steve Elena, Director of Corporate Development for Working Excellence. Hello to everyone. How are you doing today?
Doing well, how are you?
I'm fine.
Great.
Thank you so much. I know what it's like to face this traffic and, you know, to put the papers up and the phones up and the
Yeah,
texting
absolutely.
and to get here. So I'm really appreciative of that. Thank you so much. We're going to get started. As you can see, I've got papers galore here with questions. I got 10,000 questions for you. So we're going to get started. Let's start with you, Narissa. Tell us about the Mason Game and Technology Academy.
Well, the Mason Game and Technology Academy is an after-school program and a summer program where kids all the way from age 6 all the way to adulthood can actually come and learn how to design video games. So they can learn anything from the basics of the programs, the software that the game engines run on. So Unity and Unreal, the programs that the games work with. Or they can learn coding, they can learn basically any single facet of the game, of what goes into making a game.
Right. Well, I'm just curious. You said all the way to adults. I didn't realize that. So what's the oldest adult that you have? I'm just curious if somebody's my age.
I think I actually have heard about someone around 60, 50. There are parents who come and take the classes. So on site for the summer programs, it's usually ages 8 to 18, but we have a Lorton location where we have 6 to 8-year-olds. It's just a half-day program, so that's a little easier for them to manage. But then we have online classes through a program that was created by George Mason University called Scribe. And it's an online program where you can see your teacher. They have a webcam facing them, and they can easily talk to you. You can chat with the other classmates. And that one, actually, the online courses run for 14-year-olds all the way up to adults.
Wow, how cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, so really anyone can learn about gaming through this academy. It's great.
That's great. Well, my next question is for you, Steve. I know that EAI is one of the strategic partners, with George Mason. Can you tell us what is EAI?
Well, the Elite Academy Institute, EAI, is originally founded from a situation, a problem, a gap analysis problem, which is very interesting because EAI became a vision of a founder that understood that people were dropping out. Regardless of race, color, a lot of times we focus on which demographic is fallen out of the norm of our education. But in this instant, 45% of all engineering students after the second year of engineer school drop out. So Ronnie identified that, and EAI was created from a need rather than from a changing things up. There's a need, and that created the evolution that we call today of EAI.
Right. Well, our visionary, brilliant creator is sitting right next to me, Mr. Ronnie. So Ronnie, tell me, what motivated you to create EAI?
Basically, I'll just kind of be frank about it. We have a 45% dropout of engineering school. And the problem with engineering school is like there's a preparation for medical school like the MCAT. There's a preparation for law school like the LSAT. But there is no standardized way to prep someone for engineering school because they integrate multiple concepts together and it's very rigorous. And the learning is not memorization, it's intuitive. So we have a problem, and that's what kind of spurred me to do this.
Wow. I want to talk to you a little bit later about this
Sure.
intuitive concept that you have.
Sure.
Going back to Narissa, can you tell us a little bit about what makes your Mason Game and Technology Academy program so unique?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that makes it really unique is it has its own life cycle and ebb and flow to it. So not only do we get students who register for our programs, but we've had students who start off just taking our classes from a really young age who will come back year after year. And then several of the students have come up to us or sent us letters saying, I want to come to George Mason University.
Wow.
Yeah, we've had some who actually will join the program. So our hope is that as the program continues to grow, that students will come to George Mason University, join the Game and Technology program, then they can be TAs and actually teach some of the classes. And then we have VSGI, which is basically what we call an economic incubator. So it helps with graduate students who are creating their own companies to help with their startups so that they can get that money and pursue those projects that they've been putting so much work into.
Right.
So they start as students and then they end up being in the professional world creating their own companies.
Wow. Well, you know, I got a newsletter a few weeks back, and it said something like, I don't know if I have the exact wording, but it was like 250 students descending upon George Mason for the program. So how is that going?
Actually, we started off, the very first year, I believe, it was around 250 students. Then a few years ago, it was 600. Then last year, it was 800. And I think this year, we started off the summer with 600 students registered, and that's before we even actually started the program. 600. And we've had an additional, I believe, 100 or 200 signed up after that.
After that,
yeah.
Wow, so that's great, that's fantastic.
Oh, and that's just on site. We have even more signed up for the online scribe classes, and we have so many students who come in the fall and spring. So 250 ascending is way above that at this point.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, that's wonderful. Well, Ronnie, not Ronnie, but Steve, my next question is for you. Tell me, what is EAI really designed to do, and how do you do it?
Wow, okay, so best person to answer that question is the gentleman to my left. But to kind of focus from a sustainability model and a scalability model, it really defines it itself in the success of the intuitive learner and teacher. So when you have two parties experiencing the understanding of what they're learning and teaching, then is what Narissa said, is the ever-flowing, is the evolution, 4th, 5th, 6th. But what you're really doing is you're going to the future and you're letting the college or 11th grader speak to the younger generation of what they're understanding.
Right.
And it's an amazing wow factor to really kind of like put it under one, which is really tough to put under one umbrella, what we're really talking about. But for this example, yes, that would be the key, is having everyone under the experience enjoying it. And that's what is really neat.
Mr. Creator, how would you answer that, Ronnie?
What he's trying to say is, what he's trying to say is, well, first of all, we start early, and the reason we start early, 4th through 6th grade, is one, that's when they're really developing, and they're starting to hit maturity. 2, that's how the Asian students start. In Asia, in China, and India, they start very early. And that is our drawback as a country, is because we wait too long. And when we wait too long, we end up kind of pressuring at the end. So we have a nice, slow, methodical approach when we start early.
Right.
Second thing is we use basically hands-on and visual and audio. So basically, when they're doing, let's say they're learning a math concept, they would have to program it through a computer. Okay, so you would have to have all the intermediate steps out the way. You can't just get the answer. You have to show how you derive the answer, and from the middle part, you go into a computer program and showing the result. And the third thing, it's very integrated. So one subject is kind of related. It's not learned in an isolated environment. So you have 3 different subjects operating in and out constantly. So they would have to learn everything like in an engineering format. And so when they do that, that learning becomes very, very intuitive. And that's how we compete in the international market. Because in the international market, they're memorization as well, but they're just hardcore.
Right.
And we're shifting away from that because you still have to have the skills and you still have to innovate.
Right.
And that's the key. If you understand it, you can create.
Right.
But if you memorize it, you're going to forget it,
You're
and
gonna
you just took a
forget
test. Yeah.
Right. I'm hearing something, it's like a single thread that's going across all three of you, and that's that the critical point is starting early. It's starting, I heard you say that, Narissa, and then Steve, you brought that in, and Ronnie, you brought it right back up again. Ronnie, in your program, and I'm going to ask Narissa the same thing, what are the reactions of your students?
I go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
I go first?
Yeah,
okay.
you go first.
Well, I'll give a couple of reactions. I took my notes down, so I'm going to say it. We have, in our pilot program, we have fifth through seventh graders performing almost at a college level, which is unheard of. We didn't think this was going to happen. And they also understand the concept where I would give them a problem within the framework of what I taught, and I'd give them anything. And they could solve it because they understand the method. And we also did a program at a private school in Woodbridge, Virginia, and we covered an entire college semester in 3 days for middle school students. It was unheard of, and this was HTML programming. We're just like, wow, this is amazing. This concept's really working. So we want to build off that and expand off that. So students love it.
Right.
And the reason they love it is because they are able to do something they didn't think they could do.
Right.
And once they start absorbing, they become like sponges.
Right.
And they keep.
So their reaction has been really
Yeah.
good.
Parents love it too.
And that's great.
It's amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
It's something where if you were to try to put that into a module and demonstrate it to the outside world,
Right.
it would be effective.
Right.
Because the intuitive learning is the excitement. It's like an athlete.
Right.
When you see an athlete for the first time reach their goal, their number, it's that type of experience. So the athlete and coach relationship now becomes the student-teacher's relationship.
Okay.
And that's really good.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll hear Narissa's answer. We're going to take a break, and we're going to have some important announcements for you, so we'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. You're watching Skills to Pay the Bills. Our topic today focuses on the wonderful work that the George Mason Game and Technology Academy and one of its strategic partners, the Elite Academic Institute, are doing every day as they provide educational enrichment for our kids. Please welcome back to the news desk Ms. Narissa Hart, Mr. Ronnie Desgupta, and Mr. Steve Elena. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
Now, before the break, we were getting reactions to the kids, and Ronnie got a chance to tell us his side, and so did Steve. And so now it's your time, Narissa. And I'd like you to add one more thing. I'd like you to tell us about the ecosystem that you have, because I know you have several programs that you kind of blend together.
Oh,
so if
yeah.
you could, if you could tack that on to about the reactions of the kids.
Absolutely. The reactions of the kids are absolutely amazing. I just recently started working with the company, but I've been here for the summer programs, and seeing them walk out, not just having learned about game design, but actually walking out with the finished product in their hands at the end of the week. They get to take a USB drive with them that has games that they've designed. So even the younger kids, they'll get together into groups, and they'll all have jobs that a game design team would have. So you have one person who's the producer, a writer, a 3D modeler, the level designer, and they get to walk home with these finished products, and the look of pride on their faces is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, as far as the integration, we actually have a really, really great overlap with some of the arts as well. So a lot of people don't realize how much art and how much talent goes into making a video game. So you not only have the 3D level design, which wouldn't have been possible without the coders, but you also have the writing for the game. So all the storytelling, the narrative.
Wow.
You have The actors, yeah, you have the actors who are performing and doing the voice capture and things like that. And then you have the musicians who compose every single bit of noise that you hear in the background of a game. And we actually have classes offered for that. So we have writing for games, music for games, and all sorts of things.
Wow, that's great. That's wonderful.
The ecosystem of education.
Yeah.
That's what it is, an ecosystem. And that's what
Right.
Ryan and I have always been talking about, is how to integrate this into an ecosystem like George Mason.
Okay, and you can continue on.
Well, no, but as I hear and as we all discuss, and what really makes a successful environment is an ecosystem.
Yes.
Where people respect what needs to be done in everyone's space.
Right, and you're
I
integrating.
think that's what you teach also, is social skills, not just technology, but a social management skill, which is very important to the future of our workforce, and how to work with others and play with others.
Right, that's right.
So I think that's a really neat perspective from the students.
Yeah, that they get to come out completely multifaceted.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's great, that integration that you talked about earlier.
I
My
just
next
want to
question,
add to
sure.
that. Yeah, just the ecosystem. What I think MGTA does is awesome, because they're really teaching kids how to program video games, right? So, you know, math and science are boring. Really, it really is boring. But when you apply it to a video game, it's a lot of fun. And so when we talk about an ecosystem, a video game really combines science, math, and art together. And that's the ecosystem. And my part of that I'm a small niche in that ecosystem.
And the social skills.
And the social skills together, because they're interacting, they're not introverts, right? And we take that and we provide the mathematical complement to that, because they really need to have to get good at that to get more advanced. So they do the coding and the math and the physics with me, and they just basically overlap that into the video game design stuff. So it's a nice balanced approach versus just hardcore memorization tests. Nobody wants to do that.
Right. When we first started at the top of the show, Narissa talked a little bit about how your program is a little different than others, other programs, and so I'd like to hear what the EAI program, how is that different from other programs? And that's from Steve and Ronnie. You both get a chance.
Well, again, we're going with the ecosystem. We're really trying to mix academics and gaming together. We do not want a student to be bored. We want them to understand that this is how something is applied, number one. Number two, I'm not condoning against the normal education system, but our system is away from memorization. Like we have our contemporaries Kumon. It's a lot of memorization, a lot of practice, and which is good. Thomas Jefferson would be a great comparison to us, Thomas Jefferson High School. But with Thomas Jefferson High School, it's a pressure cooker, and it's only for the top %. And my vision is that it's for everybody who's willing to put in the time.
Okay. All right.
So if a brilliant kid, a brilliant person will take maybe 2 hours to learn something, someone who is not as brilliant will take a little longer. And so we're here to foster that and say, hey, listen, you can do the same thing. It'll just take you a little longer, and this is how you do it.
Steve,
So
very good. How would you add to that?
Yeah, so from an educational model where standards and testing are really measurements, we're going against the grain. And the sustainability of EAI is in the teachers, being able to allow people to teach a certain model, a certain system. But what we would really, and I'm trying to put the idea into a frame that education would inherit a system that allows students to integrate into. Rather than the system integrating into the students integrate into the system. And at the end of the day, the student at 7th grade saw the system that the junior in college is seeing. That's the key, is letting them integrate into it, because they saw it earlier in education.
Okay. Narissa, I'm curious to know about some of the courses that you offer. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, we have a wide range of courses. So as far as the artistic side, we have courses in 3D game design with Unity and Unreal. So as I said, those are two of the game engines that a lot of games run on today. And actually, one thing that's really cool about that is you see 12 and 13-year-olds using these programs, and they're actually engines that a lot of professional gaming developers use. So, for example, the BioShock series was created using Unreal. So that's an absolutely insane achievement that kids are learning how to use these. There are classes about multi-platform mobile app development, iOS app development, game art and animation, concept art to 3D model, so they get to learn about how to use Photoshop and how those Photoshopped images go into the game. Let's see, we have classes actually in Minecraft, which is a game that a lot of kids know, but what they do is instead of just playing the game, you make mods or modifications within the game, and they learn how to take a gaming world and completely change it to whatever it is that they can see as their vision.
Right.
Yep, and if you want to go to a more advanced course for the younger kids, we actually will take them to a separate, more programming-based Minecraft course. So they actually get to learn the basics of Java as they mod the game. Yeah.
Very good. Now, Steve, I know that you are a businessman in your own right, and you're working a lot with Ronnie. Tell me, how does that collaboration go? How is that?
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a conversation earlier this morning. Every morning, him and I, Ryan and I, talk about the vision, you know, and the people behind the vision and leadership. And one of the things that stood out was the people that we're teaming up with, the partners, the GMUs, the Microsofts, the teachers, and the scalability of the model is what makes it so sustainable. Because when you can have people understand it and believe in it, they will teach it. And that's something that I think we're all unified in. That's the common thread also, as you were saying, is the ability to unify a message of accomplishment.
Right, that's good. And I'm going here because we have so many questions. I should ask you now, are you guys willing to come back and do a part 2 at a later date?
Oh yeah,
so we can get the rest of the questions in.
Yeah.
Part 2. Yeah.
And I want to ask this before we have to end to Narissa. What are some of the future plans that you have?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. We have so many plans. So we're trying to create new and innovative courses. So one of the biggest things we've actually recently brought in is we have writing for games and music for game classes.
Music?
Yes.
Is that like music and art?
It's learning all about composition of music to put in the background of games and how they sort of work in different scenarios. So you'll have different music if you're walking through town versus if you're about to go up to a final boss battle. So you learn about how all of that works.
And this is still a part of STEM.
Yes, well,
wow.
Absolutely. So STEM, one thing that it really focuses on is the combination, as we know, of science, technology, engineering, math. But there's actually one term I've heard recently, which I love, which is STEAM. So that's incorporating the arts.
Wow,
and so we're creating classes that are actually about characterization for games. So talking about how character development and how the performance really brings in the player and how that plays into it.
Wow.
We've actually started. I've been leading theater games at lunch for the younger kids. So it not only helps them and teaches them some of those problem-solving skills through the games, but they're also getting up from their seats for a little bit, having a good time, getting some of the energy out, and it really brings another layer into the great experience we're already having.
And Ronnie and Steve, you guys support the bringing into the arts.
It's a physical inclusion.
It's a right and the left brain working together.
This is really
Everyone's
great. This is
part of the
fantastic.
same fun. In other words, there's no click.
Right.
It's just, do you want it?
You write it. And then I know that you also have some, I think it's called STEM+ Entrepreneurship. That concept, I think, is really cool.
So the STEM+ Entrepreneurship is actually a concept that breaks from the VSGI that I was talking about earlier. So VSGI stands for Virginia Serious Game Institute. And the whole concept behind it is it's a part of George Mason University, and it really helps companies that are starting up, those entrepreneurs that are creating their own companies, creating their own games, to kick off and get the funds they need in order to create them.
Wow, that's great. Well, listen, our time is just about up. I want to thank you so much for coming, and I think we have covered a lot in 30 minutes. So I want to thank you so much, and hope that we can sit down and schedule a time where you can come back and do part 2.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Well,
Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to contact this elite team. They are definitely the A-team, and find out how you can position your child to excel in areas of science, math, technology, and engineering, better known as STEM. And we just heard about STEAM, which adds the art to it. The jobs for today and where the kids are going to be going for years from now, it's really going to come from this area of STEM type programs. That's where the money is going to be. And as parents and educators, we want our children to be the very best that they can be. And our honored guests here have given us a straightforward pathway to success for our kids. I want to take a moment right now to thank Vera Lichtenberg, who could not be with us today, but Vera is the director of the Mason Game and Technology Academy and assistant director of the Potomac Arts Academy Computer Game Design Program. We hope to have her on the show very soon. So thank you for watching Skills to Pay the Bills, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.